Mass rioting erupted over the weekend in Chicago for 3 nights. And it's all because of nothing. Yeah, nothing. They just started rioting for no reason. Witnesses said police stood no chance. 2 teens were shot, injured, as rioting continues in Chicago for 3 nights straight. Welcome to the cultural decay, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I tell this story sometimes that about 10 years ago, I was hanging out with a journalism professor who told me, Tim, you have the unfortunate privilege of being ahead of the market. And what that meant was the work that I had been doing was too advanced for these newsrooms. Field reporting, live streaming, live commentary, these things were just beyond the capabilities of these newsrooms. They didn't know how to implement this stuff. And they said, you're just in front of everybody. So they can't hire you because they don't know how. Yeah. And so I will stress, I'm not always right about everything. Of course not. You guys know when I'm wrong about a lot of things. Plus, opinion-wise, yeah, we have a lot we disagree on, I'm sure. But there are many things that I've gotten correct. And I'll put it this way. Right now, what we're seeing in Chicago is the perfect example of why I left New York, why I left South Jersey, and why I am currently in MAGA country, in living in a mountain surrounded by a bunch of right-wing nut jobs. It's safer. Safer. People want to be left alone. They want to mind their own business. They understand the importance of hard work, and that was recognizable to me. When the rioters crossed the bridge from Philadelphia into South Jersey, I knew that it's not safe anymore because cultural decay is upon us. And so I can say this. Well, there's certainly many things that I get wrong in terms of what may happen. You may notice I typically take a more tepid approach in that I'll say, I think there's a possibility of this, but I will also say, I believe that I've been fairly successful in making moves that have led to great personal advancement. And what I mean by that is getting out of the city, way better in terms of business expansion. Investments I've made have done well. I didn't buy Bitcoin in 2011, but I did buy Bitcoin, and so I'm pretty happy about that. And what we're looking at right now is exactly what I've been talking about. For those of you that got out of Chicago, maybe even a couple of years ago when I said, and Jack Posobiec said over and over again, get out of cities, you're probably feeling pretty good. But for the people who remain in these places, I can only say it so many times. It's going to get worse. I don't enjoy saying, I told you so. I would prefer it if I said, I told you so to people who were sitting next to me, cracking open a nice cold, Pabst or something, not a Bud Light, and saying, it's a good thing we listened to you when we did. Now, many of you may live in suburbs, and for the time being, you're probably fine. Many of you may live in areas of Chicago that weren't affected by this mass rioting, but the videos are bonkers. These teens just went around stomping, smashing, trying to break into buildings. It is lawlessness, absolute chaos. 2 kids got shot. Well, of course, the new mayor stepped up and said, don't demonize these rioters. Here we go, baby. I could not help but think of the Culture War podcast episode I did with Alex Jones, Luke Rudkowski, and Shane Cashman on Friday. Check it out at youtube.com/Timcast. Because we talked about these ideas, and we've consistently talked about stuff like this on Timcast IRL. It made me think of Yuval Noah Harari, I believe his name is, who warned about the useless class. I have to wonder, is all of this on purpose, or is it an accident? What I mean is, this guy, he's a World Economic Forum guy, talks about how with new technology taking over jobs, you're going to get a class of useless people who do nothing. What will useless people do? You think they're going to sit around? Idle hands are the devil's playground. And so what we're seeing is, as people have their every need taken care of, as people have more than enough food and shelter, chaos. It's interesting. I remember reading during the Arab Spring that what caused it was the high cost of food, the inability of people to afford shelter, and with increasing chaos, insecurity. And it was funny to me. It was what's that guy's name? The hierarchy of needs. I don't know. You might know what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about the 3 things people need. If you don't get them, then revolution happens. I think there's an inverse too. If people have every need taken care of, you will get complete societal collapse. But, maybe that's a bit strong. Maybe what we really just need is, I don't know, God or faith or a shared moral framework, however you come about it. Take a look at this. Don't demonize them. Chicago's new mayor-elect says it's not constructive to vilify a group of rowdy teens that torched cars in Rampage organized on social media, but condemned the chaotic takeover. I got some photos for you. I got some videos. Take a look at this from Raw's Alerts. Chaotic scene unfolds in downtown Chicago as teenagers vandalize cars and gunfire erupts. There is currently a significant police response taking place in downtown Chicago due to a large group of teenagers causing chaos. They've been smashing car windows, getting into fights, robbing people, and using mace. There have also been reports of multiple gunshots, and 3 teens have been shot while attempting to break into the Art Institute of Chicago. Holy crap. And this is what I mean by civil war. People just don't get it, man. When I talk about civil war, I'm not talking about this idea that there is a dividing line and you've got a Mason-Dixon line and the president being like, I hereby declare you will not. No, this is it. This is exactly what I've described. Now, you may say this group is listless and they have no ideology behind them or anything like that. And that may be sort of true, but this is how it begins. This is exactly how this kind of stuff begins. We have extreme hyperpolarization in this country. You've got, as I often mention, I go hang out at the poker tables and talking to regular people and everything's fun and everyone's happy. But the moment we get anywhere near politics, everyone starts looking around, depending on where you're at, mind you. If you're playing in MAGA country, you got very little to worry about. But this is it. These people are probably more of the left persuasion. Not that they're like overt leftists, but I assure you, the left will use this. Revolutionaries will use this. This is what they do. This rips the system apart. So let me tell you what I think we're seeing. I'm reminded again, as I mentioned, of Yuval Noah Harari. And the point is this. Useless eaters. These people, whether it's him or anybody or otherwise, have made the point. There's going to be a lot of useless people that we don't want around. And then what do we see? We see what appears to be the controlled demolition of our own society. I have to wonder if it's on purpose. Most of you probably assume it is. When you see these people rioting, I could play this video for you. Let me lower that volume first and then play it for you. Okay, I don't think it's even coming through, so there we go. Just absolute chaos. Mass chaos in Chicago. Gunshots ring out. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. There's no goal. There's no faith. There's no mission. It's boredom. It's useless people. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I think people can have a use. I'm saying these people have no purpose. They don't know for what they do or why. And so here we are. Society is breaking down. It's happening in Chicago. You have videos like this, and this is just one video. Police are completely helpless. That's what they've been saying. Cops couldn't do anything. Take a look at some of these photos. I'm gonna scroll down. I want to read you this statement from the mayor. First, I want to read you the statement because I think you need to understand where we're at. He says, in no way do I condone the destructive activity we saw on the Loop and Lakefront this weekend. It is unacceptable and has no place in our city. However, it is not constructive to demonize youth who have otherwise been starved of opportunities in their own communities. Excuse me? For what purpose would anyone in the hundreds to thousands go around smashing windows, setting fires, and destroying things? If you're of the left persuasion, like this guy is, it's about not having opportunities. We got to make your own opportunities. Come on. I can tell the story a million times. I'm from the south side of Chicago. Did I rampage through the streets smashing windows? No. I just went and worked and I figured things out and navigated a system to try and make my life better. This is not about left or right, unless the left is a controlled demolition. This is what I mean when I talk about civil war. I have said there will be roving bands of people engaging in violence. What you will see in response is likely going to be more conservative-leaning groups, probably fairly moderate or not political at all. And they're going to be forming factions with guns, and they're going to be creating neighborhood watches, forming their own. They're going to call it community watch. They're going to say, the Lakeview Community Watch Group. Here's the best part. If you're a member of a community watch group, and then one of these bands of riotous teenagers makes their way into your neighborhood and starts attacking people, and you defend yourself, Congratulations. It's now a conspiracy to commit murder charge. That's a narco-tyranny. And it's going to happen. It has happened already. That's why we've talked to some lawyers who said not to form community watch groups, because then you'll get charged with conspiracy when you try and protect yourself. It's better just to protect your neighborhood and not say much else about it. But this is where it goes. Anarcho-tyranny, violent riots. And I've already warned. You'll be sitting in your home. This group of people will be screaming, demanding your blood. And the police will say, there is nothing we can do to stop this riot, but we can try and calm things down by arresting the person they're mad at. And it will happen. Your Constitution is a piece of paper. Did you see that story out of New York this morning? Post Millennial had the clip. It was the bodega shopkeep. A woman came in and said she wanted potato chips. I think it was potato chips. And he said, ma'am, your card was declined. So her boyfriend went over and mercilessly started beating him. And the woman stabbed him because they wanted potato chips. Now, they could have just taken him and walked out. Nope. They decided to kill the shopkeeper. He fought back. He grabbed the knife. He stabbed back. He was criminally charged with murder, sent to Rikers Island. That's the point. They want the chaos. They like the chaos. These people who are ripping society apart are doing what they want. Why? Those of us who believe in hard work, personal responsibility, who believe in humanity, we don't want the system torn apart. We don't want violence. They do. They want to rip the system to its core so they can build a new one. So what will happen is when these people go around smashing things, and if you live in Lakeview, if you live in the Gold Coast, if you live anywhere near downtown, near Navy Pier in these apartments, and you can't go outside because of 3 nights of rioting, yeah, maybe you'll understand what I was talking about when I said get out of cities. But here's the worst case scenario. When you do go outside, and you, in the morning even, you're like, the rioting's over, and then you look around at all the chaos and the destruction and the smashed glass, you go to your car, it was set on fire. That's right. They were torching cars. You say, well, I no longer have a car. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Nobody. And then what happens? You call your insurance company and you say, my car was set on fire and completely destroyed. And they did. I don't know if they have photos of it, but they torched. Okay, there they do. They do. When you go to your insurance company, they're going to say, sir, these riots have been going on for days. Why did you park here? Well, I live here. Sir, we're not responsible for you parking your car in a riot. And then your $30,000, $40,000 Tesla, gone. Let's say you got something worse than that. Old junker. You're probably not going to have insurance for this anyway. Your car's just gone. They don't care about you. And so what happens? This is what we see when society breaks down. Roving bands engaging in violence. And it's worse than we've ever seen. And this is the craziest thing, is that, like, I didn't expect to be right so soon about this. But there are going to be a lot of people who will deny it. This past weekend, met some fans. One of these dudes, I don't know, maybe he's watching now, said that he just tuned out social media. He didn't want to pay attention anymore. His life has vastly improved since tuning it all out. And I felt bad when I heard that. I'm like, I get it. When I go out on the weekends and try to just, chill. I like going to the poker club, going to the casino and playing some Hold'em. 1-2, no limit, $300 buy-in. And the reason I do is because it's basically like, I don't know, what does it cost? Like $10 an hour for entertainment. It's very cheap. It's, people who don't understand poker, they think it's expensive. It's not really that expensive. You can play for like 12 hours and actually leave completely even if you know what you're doing. It's not like I'm just wasting money or anything. I'm just trying to, get away and play a little math game, a little people game. And so when I heard this, I felt, I get it. When I was in Egypt, and I talk about this a lot, you see the revolution, you see people screaming. The government was literally collapsing. APCs shutting down bridges. We had to flee pretty quickly because they were shutting down the country. And there were a lot of, and while we were there, we actually went to Heliopolis city, went to the mall, walked around, went to a fast food restaurant, sat there, and seemingly everything was normal. But, coming from the outside, I knew it wasn't. I knew that despite the fact that people were seemingly living normal lives and just eating whatever they wanted to eat and doing whatever they wanted, buying whatever they wanted, buying cell phones and drones and all that stuff, I knew their government was in collapse. And for the most part, people got by. But when the new government took over, they went and massacred a bunch of people in Nasser City and started killing people who are Muslim. So to those people who say, like, I tuned the news out, I didn't want to pay attention to it, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, I guess. But one day it might be you. One day it may be you standing there with your friends outside when a giant mob of people is running and screaming. And you're standing there in the street being like, what's going on? Like, what are these people doing? And then one of them runs up, pulls out a gun and just shoots you. Why? No reason. They had no reason to torch the cars. They had no reason to smash the windows. But a couple people got shot trying to break into the Art Institute, apparently. And it happens. It could be you driving your car in Provo, Utah, when someone runs up to your vehicle and puts a bullet in your arm, like we saw. It could be you driving your car in Austin, Texas, when a man with an AK-47 surrounds your vehicle with a bunch of violent extremists holding that weapon low ready. And when you panic and shoot him, you get arrested. And so that's the crazy thing. When I hear people say, like, I just tuned it all out, I didn't want to hear about it. I'm like, okay, one day you'll be walking down the street and this will happen to you. And you will see this and you won't know why it's happening. To those that paid attention, I get it. It may be scary. It may be depressing. The good news is, those of you that listened, you got out of cities, you bought some chickens, you got some farm fresh eggs, and I'll tell you where you were. Where you were was just someone who got out of the city and maybe got your own house. Maybe you rented or something. When you bought the chickens, you thought it was maybe silly, but then they started laying eggs. Then the price of eggs went up to like $7 a carton. I think in some places it was like 10. No matter for you, you got too many eggs. You got eggs for breakfast. Now, eggs are just one thing. Hey, but milk, bread, and eggs, that's a staple for everybody, right? So for you, you were thinking, I don't know, maybe it was the right move. I'm happier, fresh air, no lockdowns. And then the rioting happened. Now you are sitting in your backyard sipping a nice sweet tea with some eggs just waiting there in the chicken coop for you to go have for breakfast. And you look at your phone and you see where you used to live. They are rampaging through the city and destroying things, and people are being shot and beaten. And you're like, wow, I'm sure glad I paid attention to what was going on and got the F out of there. Now, a lot of people tell me, Tim, it's too hard. I can't do it. And I'm like, I get it. I didn't say it was easy. I never said it was easy. I empathize. But I just want to make one thing clear. Whether or not you can or can't is completely irrelevant. It's whether or not you feel the pressure. And so for a lot of people, they decided, I don't know if it's going to get that bad, but I'm going to get out just in case. I did. I was in New York and several bombs were planted. They were planted. I mean, look at these videos. This is crazy. Bombs were planted in Manhattan and Jersey City. I lived in the Jersey side. I lived on Myrtle and Nostrand in Brooklyn. I think it's like a Bed-Stuy or something. I lived there. And one day I look out my window. I get a text saying, are you near the shooting? And I look out my window and sure enough, there's police everywhere. The lights had been shut off. 2 cops had been assassinated by a black supremacist. He fled and then killed himself. And I was like, wow, man, this racial stuff is getting crazy. I don't want to live in this city anymore. The protests, the violence. So I left. The first thing I did was I went down to Miami for a year and then decided to move back to the New York area after I left working for Fusion. I went down there because I was working for them. And I decided to go to the Jersey side because I'm still in the New York metro, but out of the city. That's when the bombs were planted. A bomb in Manhattan and a bomb in Jersey City. And I was like, I'm not even safe here. So I moved to a southern part of the New York metro and then ultimately decided that I needed to get a place of my own and get away from the city, just the metro entirely, and went to South Jersey. That's when the riots crossed the bridge, and I said, I'm not even safe down here. And now we're in MAGA country in West Virginia. For the most part, we're completely fine. Now you see what's happening in Chicago. I got out early, and I think it's fair to say that I made a lot of right decisions, a lot of correct decisions in getting away from these places, because Philly's gone absolutely bonkers haywire with violence and shootings and things like that. And so here I am now in MAGA country looking at these stories of Chicago, where I'm from, where I used to live. And there's a reason why I got out of Chicago, too, because I knew it was getting bad. I'd been shot at on more than one occasion in Chicago. I think like 2 or 3, to be honest. No, I don't want to say like 50 or anything. And for no reason. Me and my brother are driving. We get off, I think we were on off 290 at Independence when someone in a car driving past us just points a gun at us and shoots at us. No reason. No idea why. That's Chicago. And now we're watching this. Perhaps it's the controlled demolition of our country. Perhaps it's because there's too many useless eaters. But it's happening right now. So look at these videos. And you might think, oh, it's only a few hundred, maybe a few thousand people. It's 3 nights in a row. They're jumping on buses. They're smashing windows. And the police could do nothing to stop it. Nothing. Look at this. A Tesla was torched. And it's in the middle of the road. I have to imagine someone probably fled from it. It wasn't like it was just parked on the side of the road. I have to imagine that someone was in the car, got surrounded, attacked, and they fled. That's the nature of where we are. And I can only imagine that it's going to get worse. The police can't do anything. They won't do anything. The DAs won't do anything. In fact, they're contributing to it. Oh, they'll arrest the guy who defends himself, but not these teenagers. No. Don't demonize them, says the mayor. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.